Hi, I'm Joe Nohavicka from Pardalis and Nohavicka, and welcome back to Cup of Joe. We're going to talk about a case, it's a little tragic. We're talking about a situation that involved domestic violence, and it's something that happens pretty often. We don't see it in court a lot, but we do see it in life a lot. An example is the show Jersey Shore, where Ronnie and his girlfriend Jen were having a fight and outside of their car. Jen gets into the car, drives away, and drags Ronnie along. He gets banged up pretty badly. The police come and she's arrested, but Ronnie has a change of heart. Remember, this is a domestic violence case, all right? This is a couple. They have a relationship with each other. Ronnie says, you know what, I'm okay. It was just an accident and I don't want to press any charges. Ronnie was seriously injured, but he got lucky. Jen got lucky too, because she could have gone to jail. On the other hand, Ron could have got hurt worse, and he could have ended up dying, which is like the case that we're going to talk about today. This was a couple out in Seaford, Long Island, and they had been together for a while. And they weren't kids; they were, middle-aged. 55 was the boyfriend, and the girlfriend was in her mid-40s. And they're out at a restaurant, and they're having a pleasant enough evening, and then they start mixing alcohol into the conversation. And all of a sudden, the fact that the girlfriend smokes cigarettes becomes a problem for the boyfriend. And an argument ensues, and he is going to leave her in the restaurant. He storms out, gets into his car. She storms out right behind her. He gets in, turns on the car, he sees her. She's going towards the car, banging on the car, and he drives away and he leaves the restaurant. Minutes later, not long, maybe 10 minutes, he gets a phone call from the owner of the restaurant. Says, hey, you got to get back here because your girl got hurt pretty badly. Turns his car around and drives back, and he sees his girlfriend lying on the ground. Now, this is not to upset you, and this is not for purposes of spectacle, but the girl had passed away because of injuries from being dragged by the car. The police are called, and the boyfriend, Rich, is arrested, and he's charged with manslaughter, among other things. But manslaughter is the serious one. It's a homicide, and he's looking at serious time here. The family of the deceased girlfriend is furious. They want justice. The case goes to trial. Now, interestingly enough, the jury did not get to hear anything about alcohol being involved because the girlfriend was in fact drunk, and her blood alcohol level was very high. And Rich was also drunk, but this did not get into the trial. And I'm going to explain that, the reason why that is. But let's get back to the trial. The prosecutor, they wanted blood. They wanted jail time. They wanted a felony charge. They wanted Rich to go to jail for a long time. And they were going to try to prove that Rich knew everything that happened. They were going to try to prove that, as a matter of fact, in the words of the prosecutor, that Rich treated his girlfriend like roadkill in order to teach her a lesson about smoking. The trial goes, and the defense is that it wasn't Rich's fault at all. In fact, it was the girlfriend's fault because she was drunk and she was running after him, and she is wearing flip-flops. Okay, so it goes back and forth. They hear testimony from Rich. Of course, they're not going to hear any testimony from the family or the deceased herself. That would be impossible. They didn't get any statements from her or anybody else. So what happens is that they do get to call the owner, who explains what I explained to you, that he saw what happened. He saw Rich drive away. He called, and Rich came right back. And that's all that he was able to testify to, which is fine. Rich swore during his examination that he did not know. He was all broken up. He was crying. The reporters that were there at the trial, they insisted that Rich was in fact serious about his remorse. He was very upset by what happened. So the jury comes back. On the homicide, they say he's not guilty. They did not believe the fact that he knew that she was being dragged under the car. So that was a good thing for Rich. And then the bad news is that they did convict him on the lesser charge, which was not a felony, it was a misdemeanor, which means that he would get up to a year in jail, which is a lot better than having to deal with the felony. He could have got big time on this in jail. They found him guilty of that. Then came to the sentencing aspect of it, and this is what the judge does, okay? In New York, the juries have nothing to do with sentencing. The juries do not decide how much time somebody's going to go away to jail for. They do not decide how much in fines they're going to pay. All they do is decide whether someone is guilty or not guilty. In this case, they found Rich not guilty of the homicide, but they did find him guilty of the negligence, the reckless endangerment aspect of the case. That they believed that what he did was not the result of his malice aforethought, that he intended to kill her, but he was just being reckless with total disregard for the life of another human being. And that they found him guilty on. Now we get to the sentencing aspect. The judge did hear about the fact that both of them, Rich and his girlfriend, were drunk. Why didn't the jury get to hear about it? Well, this is how it goes in trials. The attorneys, whether for the prosecution or for the defense, they decide what evidence is going to go in. They can agree on what evidence goes in, or they can disagree and then argue to the judge, and then the judge decides what is relevant and what is not relevant. In this situation, both the prosecution and Rich's attorneys agreed that it was not good to have this evidence in. Why not? The prosecution did not want any evidence of alcohol involvement because they wanted to show that Rich had a clear mind when he made the decision to run over a girlfriend. They wanted to show that Rich had a clear mind and not affected whatsoever by alcohol when he made the decision to drive while his girlfriend was being dragged, and he drove off, leaving her there to die. That was their theory. So alcohol involvement would have been bad for the prosecution's case. The defense did not want the introduction of alcohol involvement in the case because they wanted to show that Rich also had a clear mind, but for a different reason. That he clearly just did not see her. He didn't know the severity of the situation. So alcohol didn't help, okay? And the jury did not get to hear that. It wasn't part of the case. But sentencing is different. During sentencing, there's different evidence that is brought in, and the judge did get to hear about it. And let me just get back to why Rich also would want the evidence of alcohol involvement. Because intoxication can, in some cases, be a defense to intent. To commit a homicide, there must be intent to kill. If you're too drunk to reach that intent, to be able to formulate that intent, that could be a defense in this case. So it was good for everybody to not have it because they wanted, for the purposes of the trial, a clear and sober Rich to testify as to what happened on that night and what his state of mind was. Let's get to the sentencing itself. So now that the jury has determined that Rich is only guilty of a misdemeanor, they only get to sentence him, not they, but the judge, only gets to sentence Rich, so up to 1 year. And the judge could have directed that he not go to jail at all, and that's what his attorney was asking for. Rich's attorney was saying to the judge, look, this is a tragic thing. He lost somebody who was very important in his life, and he should not be sentenced to a term in jail. He should be put on probation, and he can take treatment for the alcohol. The prosecution, on the other hand, wanted him to do the full year. They said they didn't care what the jury said, that what Rich did was wrong. He tried to teach her a lesson because of the smoking. His lesson went awry, and somebody died, and he should get the full amount. And here's what the judge decided. The judge decided he should get the full year because the judge said, according to the evidence that was adduced at trial, it was clear, and the jury made no mistake about what their feelings were about this, that Rich had some involvement in the death of his girlfriend. And that's the end of the story. Rich goes to jail for up to a year. Now, there are a couple of legal lessons in this, but I think the more important lesson is the fact that, and it has nothing to do with the law, that teaching should be left to the professionals. Rich had no business trying to teach his girlfriend a lesson about smoking. And anybody who has had to deal with quitting smoking cigarettes knows that somebody giving you a lecture or somebody treating you badly, somebody treating you like you're not human, is any way to help somebody quit smoking. This is Cup of Joe. Come to www.pnlawyers.com. Read the full story. I think you'll enjoy the testimony that's involved in this. It's there. It's waiting for you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.